By now, we've all heard about the Senate's damning report on CIA torture that took place under the Bush administration. The enhanced interrogation program was brutal and ironically ineffective, and the agency big time lied about it. Now the calls to prosecute the CIA agents and Bush officials involved are mounting.
People who do practice it should be brought to trial.
It's bad enough not to prosecute these officials, but to reward or promote them and risk the integrity of the U.S. government to protect them is incomprehensible.
There's no sense in simply just doing this confession in public and saying we confess, but really we're not subject to the law like everybody else.
But considering that torture is illegal under both U.S. and international law, why won't Obama prosecute anyone responsible for it? Here are two of the biggest reasons. One, it would be hard to convict anyone. CIA agents were told that waterboarding and other coercive techniques were actually legal. And as we've seen, when it comes to acting in the interest of national security, a lot flies. But even if anyone was prosecuted, it would still be hard to get a conviction. The law tends to protect those in power whose job it supposedly is to protect everyone else. Just look at the cops who've recently killed people. But more importantly, there's actually a precedent for not convicting CIA agents involved in torture. In 2009, Attorney General Eric Holder did appoint a prosecutor to look at the CIA's treatment of 101 detainees. From there, they focused on 2 cases where the detainees had actually died in CIA custody. But by 2012, those cases were dropped due to a lack of sufficient evidence for a conviction. Even now, after the release of the Senate report, the Department of Justice says there's not enough new information to reopen those cases. You raising an eyebrow yet? Let's move on to the second big reason why Obama won't prosecute anyone. It's simply not in his interest to do so. Partly because doing so would look like, in his words, a partisan witch hunt, a Democratic president going after a former Republican administration. And more importantly, doing so could come back and bite Obama in the ass. Because who's to say the next Republican president won't come after him and his administration for, let's say, his legally questionable use of drone strikes that have even killed U.S. citizens? It's clearly a headache not worth Obama pursuing, but what about the International Criminal Court? Afraid not. It's a case of double standards. While the Obama administration has supported the prosecution of people from other countries, the U.S. has refused to sign up, in effect giving its citizens immunity from the court. European lawyers have sought to prosecute Bush administration officials for war crimes before, but they tended to give up when the U.S. leaned on their governments behind the scenes. A lot of people are saying that the torture detailed in the Senate report represents a stain on America's conscience. But if no one will ever be held accountable, can that stain ever disappear?